Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Real Raging Couch channel. I'm Richard Jensen, coming to you live from my studio apartment in Ashland, Oregon. And yeah, the stream elements list is wrong. We are not doing the High on Life 2, High on Life Let Knifey Cook stream right now. This is Physical Media Saturday. It's just on top of everything else. I simply forgot to change that in there. So please ignore that. We are live talking about John Boorman's Excalibur, specifically the new 4K release that just came out from Arrow Films, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So we're talking about that. The High on Life stream is going to be tonight at 9. So ignore that. Anyway, just a minute. Let me get some water. Let me first of all say once again, Arrow's knocked it out of the park on this one. It is a beautiful set, as you can tell. They've got the slipcase. Very hard, very high quality cardboard. You can feel that it's nice and thick. And inside the case we have we've got the 3 discs right here. It is a 3-disc edition. One 4K disc and 2 Blu-rays. The 4K is still in the PlayStation, which I was watching it earlier before we came on. As you can see, it's also got the other 2 discs, which are all extras and bonus stuff, which is nice. And you've also got some postcards with people. And oh, look at this photo right here. Has any director ever had such a badass photo taken of him? I mean, Boorman is kind of an unassuming guy, but my God. Look at that. Look at that. That's just badass. I mean, Boorman's kind of an unassuming looking guy. He looks like he could be an accountant. But that brain of his is just filled with first-class filmmaking ideas. So it's kind of an awesome shot. And there's a bunch of stuff. It's got artwork. Those are a nice collection of postcard-like stills in there. So let's put this later. But anyway, first things first, the transfer on this thing is absolutely gorgeous. Once again, Arrow has knocked it out of the park. I absolutely love the work that Arrow does on their transfers, particularly films that are rich and deep in color. I also have the Arrow 4K of Flash Gordon, which is another fully color-saturated film, which I absolutely recommend. But we're not going to talk about that right now, except to say if you haven't gotten that, try to get it. It's awesome. Awesome. And John Boorman is a fairly interesting cat as far as English cinema goes. He's kind of marginalized in Britain because he's not of the normal social realist school that the English are famous for. He kind of belongs to that subset that also includes Michael Powell and Ken Russell, where it's more fantasy oriented, it's more visually extravagant stuff. Not interested in realism. Boorman has always said that films need to be more like dreams, and that certainly fits Excalibur to a T, which has a very dreamlike tone to it. It is amazing. I gotta tell you, my personal history with this film, I first saw this at the Coast Theater in Fort Bragg, California when I was 16, and I may have been too young for it, even at 16, because it's a lot. There is a scene early on in the film where Uther Pendragon, who eventually is the father of Arthur, who would become king, has signed a peace with Cornwall, and they're celebrating that peace. And then Cornwall asks his wife Ingrain to dance for the assembled, And that was kind of a mistake because Uther Pendragon immediately gets a boner for his wife and decides, screw the piece, I want her. And he ends up having Merlin temporarily turn him into Cornwall, and he proceeds to go to town on her. And in the film, he goes to town on her while still wearing armor. As I said, this film traumatized me when I was 16, so sorry for the spoiler, but yeah, yeah, so this is not a film for kids. If you're thinking this is like, Disney's Sword in the Stone, oh, it'll be fun, it's fantasy, the kids will love it. No. Maybe if you're a cool parent and the kids are mature enough, maybe in their early teens, you can get away with it. But small kids, you do not want to see this because you got your sex, and you've also got a lot of violence in this thing. This is a very violent film. It's graphic, but again, it still has that kind of dreamlike tone to it. But it kind of blew my mind when I was 16, and that was my introduction to John Boorman, who I think is one of the great underrated directors in British cinema. The film is essentially just a retelling of the Arthurian legends going back to Uther Pendragon siring Arthur pulling the sword from the stone, founding Camelot. You got the whole Lancelot and Guinevere thing going on. Arthur winds up sleeping with his sister, which is not his fault. She did the kind of shape-shifting thing that Uther did with his mom. He ends up burying she ends up burying Mordred, and then you have him trying to take over Camelot in the final battle and everything. It's a lot in the movie. It is a big, sprawling epic made for. Now I've heard two different budgets for this thing. On one commentary track, someone says it's 10 million, another says it's 11 million. So it's the 10 and 11 million range. Back in 81, where you could get more bang for your buck. I don't know what 11 million would be in today's terms. I'm trying not to think about it. What's important is Boorman got every cent on the screen. It is one of the most gorgeous fantasy films of the 80s. It's just absolutely stunning. And the cast is great. You got Nigel Terry as Arthur. You've got Nicole Williamson as Merlin. Sherry Lungi as Guinevere. What's his name? That's his name. It's Nicholas something or other. I'm blanking on the name. I'm sorry. I'm old and I forget. Yeah, Nicholas Clay as Lancelot. And in small supporting roles, you've got Liam Neeson and Patrick Stewart. Fun fact. This is the movie that Liam Neeson met Helen Mirren on, and they ended up living together for a few years. So, respect. Good on you, Mr. Neeson. And I actually found a clip on YouTube, an episode of the Graham Norton show where he's talking about the movie, and it's Helen Mirren and Liam Neeson, and they're friendly with each other. Whatever happened, they're fine, they're buddies, they're still hanging out with each other. There's apparently a lot of affection between the two of them. But but the cast is great. The interesting thing watching it this time around was watching Nigel Terry as Arthur. And I always considered when I'd seen the film years ago, I thought, well, he's not as charismatic, he's movie starish enough for the role. But watching it again this time, I actually think it's a really good performance because it's interesting. First time we see him, he's his older brother's squire, and he's helping. He's going to be in the competition that's going to have an opportunity to pull the sword from the stone. And you you see him as a kid, see him as a 17-year-old kid. He's kind of a goober. He's nice, he's pleasant, but he's a very naive kid. And he accidentally pulls the sword from the stone, and he becomes king. And then he grows he grows from being this kind of goofball kid to a credible kingly leader. It is kind of impressive. And the thing I flashed on watching it this time around was Zelensky. I know we're not supposed to discuss politics. This is a political stream. But it's kind of the same thing. Zelensky went from being this kind of goofball comedian. He did sitcoms, he did variety shows. There's one famous variety show that I'm slightly obsessed with where he pretends to play the piano with his penis. And he ends up becoming the president of Ukraine, and he actually a very credible leader. And he actually did the same trick of growing a beard to make himself, and it works. It works. Nigel Terry does the same thing in Excalibur, and that's kind of, I think, what keyed me into that. And it's kind of an impressive thing. You go from being just this goober to a credible leader, and that idea I find kind of beautiful. But one of the best performances in the film is Nicole Williamson as Merlin, and man, I mean, he just brings it. He is funny, he is scary, he has depth. If you don't know who Nicole Williamson is, he's a famous Shakespearean actor, worked for years in England doing stage work. Occasionally would pop up in movies. He was never a big movie star, but he'd always pop up in movies. He's also in Herbert Ross's The 7% Solution, based on the Nicholas Meyer novel, about how Sherlock Holmes was able to kick cocaine with the help of Sigmund Freud. If you haven't seen it, that's really good. That needs a new release. And he bops around. He's also done some stage work in America. Infamously, one of his big roles in American theater was a Broadway run of Paul Rudnick's play I Hate Hamlet, about how a TV actor gets roped into doing Hamlet on Broadway and then ends up getting coached in the role by the ghost of John Barrymore. Of course, Evan Handler played the TV actor, and Williamson played John Barrymore. And apparently, during one production, Williamson actually hit Handler on the backside with his sword, which was not in the script. So that turned into a whole thing. I'm sure you can look it up on Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever web thing you have for searching. But seek it out. That is a wild story. Williamson was difficult. He could be cranky. He could be irritable. And apparently, when Helen Mirren was cast as Morgan Le Fay, wait, is it Morgan? Is it? Yeah, no, is it Morgan Le Fay? I'm sorry, I'm an old man, and occasionally things get lost here. Morgana. When Helen Mirren was cast as Morgana and found out that Nicole Williamson was playing Merlin, she told Boorman, "I can't do this. I did a production of Macbeth a while back with him, and it was a nightmare. I do not want to work with this. I cannot stand this man." And Boorman said, "Well, Morgana and Merlin don't really like each other in the film either, so it could kind of work." And so that tension is there in the film. And from what I've been hearing, apparently, I don't know if they became friends, but they grew to respect each other during that shoot. So that's a nice story, anyway. Story, but yeah, it is absolutely one of the great films about the Arthurian legends. And admittedly, I haven't seen that many of them. I've seen, oh god, what year was that? It's probably, I'm going to say, mid-90s film, First Night, that I think it was Jerry Zucker who directed that. Let me double check that first. Yep, that's a Jerry Zucker film. It's fine. It's more having to do with the whole Lancelot, Arthur, Guinevere love triangle, and it's fine. William Nicholson's script is nicely lucid in the kind of the Robert Volk screenwriting tradition, but it's kind of just okay. I think at the time I saw it, I said they took the Arthurian legends and turned it into an episode of 30-something. It doesn't have the mythic power that Excalibur, although Sean Connery is really good in that movie, and it is one of his best performances, so it's worth watching, but don't expect to be blown away by it. It's fine. It's decent. It's probably a more somber movie than you would ever expect to be made by a Zucker brother, so roll with that. But yeah, it's a Boorman really leans on the mythicness of it. It's a film. It's not a realistic film per se. It's the dream of the Arthurian legends. As I said before, Boorman always liked to say films need to be more dreamlike, and I get that. That makes absolutely perfect sense. But as I said before, this is a really great addition. This is Arrow doing what they do best, taking a movie and just filling it up with extras, with context. Hang on, let me get this closed. There we go. Now, I haven't had a chance to dive into too many of the extras on this thing yet. I only got the disc this week, and it's been kind of a busy week here at the Jensen Dojo. It's just been busy, but it's got a ton of extras. The two I can comment on are the two commentary tracks on this thing, and they're kind of gorgeous, kind of wonderful. One is by Brian Hoyle, who wrote a book called The Cinema of John Boorman. That's the more academic of the two. And one by David Kitteridge, who has just recently directed a new documentary called Boorman and the Devil, The Making of Exorcist II, The Heretic. And he brings it up a few times in his commentary track, how that film kind of almost destroyed Boorman, both professionally and from a health standpoint. Apparently, I guess, while Boorman was making the film, he got so sick that he ended up having to go to intensive care for like 5 weeks and almost died. So, that's something. And you know what? I'm going to do a quick tangent and say that on Exorcist II, The Heretic, which doesn't work as a movie. It's kind of a mess, but it's also kind of a glorious, ambitious mess. But the biggest problem with the movie is the fact that it's coming after The Exorcist. Specifically, William Friedkin's Exorcist, and that's going to require a little bit of explanation. As I said before, Boorman is very much kind of a fabulist. He's someone who believes movies should be more like dreams. And on the other hand, you had William Friedkin, who, especially in the early 70s, having come out of documentary films, really took a very cinema verite approach to his material, as trying to make it as realistic as possible. So you could not have two more diametrically opposed filmmaking philosophies in the space of 2 films of a franchise. And I can see why people reacted badly to Exorcist II, The Heretic, not just because it was diametrically opposed to The Exorcist. It's also just, let's just say they were expecting probably more of the Friedkin vibe, and they end up getting this crazy kind of fever dreamish movie. And honestly, they should put I say to Warners, you know what? Let Arrow have Exorcist II, The Heretic. You've already done Excalibur. You've already done Zardoz, which I don't have, damn it, because it came out years ago. I never got a chance to get it, but because this was before I had 4K capabilities. But go ahead. You've got a good relationship with Warner. Say, hey, can we do Exorcist II? And they're going to be like, yeah, sure, whatever, go ahead. It's a film that does not work. Richard Burton is not great in the movie. He plays the priest who's trying to help Linda Blair get over the possession part, and he's not good in the movie. there are times he kind of resembles the Dave Thomas SCTV version of Burton more than Burton himself. It happens. That's what Burton could be very uneven on film. Brilliant actor, but man, he could be, when it came to film, he could be uneven. So that's something to expect. But I am very interested to see this documentary. I've seen reviews of it online. It sounds fascinating. I want to see it. Again, it's not a film that works, but there is too much Boorman magic in it to dismiss it outright. And the fact that it's not the Friedkin's The Exorcist, may have heard at the box office, but it gives the film its own identity, and I absolutely recommend. I do recommend seeing it. It's, you know, that old saying that we have over at the Junk Food Cinema Discord. It's not a good movie, but it's a great movie. Definitely applies to Exorcist 2. I should ask, next time I'm on the Discord, I should ask Brian if they've ever done an episode of that on Junk Food Cinema, because I would love to hear him and Cargill go off about it, because that would be a fun episode. So as I said, the two extras I've gotten to so far are Brian Hoyle's commentary, which is very academic. He goes into the source material. The author, by Mallory, talks about a lot of Boorman's influences, his early works. And Kittredge is very much more of an enthusiast. And oftentimes he'll interrupt the commentary track to go, "Oh, this shot is gorgeous," or "This shot is beautiful." He's more enthusiast than academic, so you kind of have them coming from both sides of the film. But yeah, they are. It is a beautiful movie. They are very fun commentary tracks. They're both worth a listen. Even though, again, they are diametrically opposed. One more academic, one more freewheeling, and just, wow, this is awesome. There's other extras on this thing, which I haven't gotten to yet, let's see, the making of Excalibur, Myth and the Movie, a never-before-released 48-minute documentary directed by Neil Jordan during the production of Excalibur. Neil Jordan was actually an early protege of Boorman's. Boorman was very supportive of him. Apparently, they had also written a film They had written a film together called Broken Dream that Boorman could never get going. Hoyle mentions in the commentary track. It sounds fascinating. I would love to get a copy of that script if I can find it online. To Be a Knight and Follow a King, a newly filmed interview with director John Boorman and actor Charlie Boorman. Charlie Boorman plays the very young Mordred in that film. When Death Was But a Dream, a newly filmed interview with creative associate Neil Jordan. The Charm of Making, a newly filmed interview with production designer Anthony Pratt. Confessions of a Professional, Pain in the Ass, a newly filmed interview with second unit director Peter McDonald. Mankara, a new featurette on the working friendship of John Boorman and co-writer Rospo Pallenberg, featuring a newly filmed interview with Pallenberg. Divided by Nature, a new featurette by film historians Howard S. Berger and Kevin Moore. And then you got your trailers and your image gallery. Now the other bonus disc, which is interesting, has a cut of the 120-minute TV version of the film, or the PG version of the movie. What happened was, I guess, Orion for cable versions to help me, because the film was incredibly expensive for 1981, and they wanted to see if they could get more people in the theater. Created a PG version of the movie to get more people in the seats, people who might be turned off by the R rating. Now, I remember vaguely seeing bits and pieces of this on cable when I was a kid, because when they had it on HBO, they would show the PG version during the day, but then they'd show the R version at night. Obviously, the R version is the one that's going to cook. Excuse me. But I am fascinated to revisit the PG version. It should be fascinating. And it also includes a 50-minute Excalibur behind the movie, a 50-minute retrospective documentary in which cast and crew look back on the making of the film. So I'm curious to see that. That looks like it's going to be fun. So those are the extras on this film. Once again, Arrow doing the Lord's work. They are going out there to make take an outstanding film and giving it the best possible edition ever. Oh, I gotta show you this. This is the color version of the photo I was showing you earlier. It's on the back of this really nice booklet. Again, John Boorman pulling a sword from a stone. Michael Bay can only dream of reaching this level of coolness. Yeah, that's right. I just burned Michael Bay. Screw you. I don't like the guy. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, also it's got this nice book. As I should point out, the booklet is nice. It's got a ton of here we go. Ton of writing on the film, complete with illustrations, stills from the movie. Again, nothing but respect for Arrow when they do an edition, full-on big edition of a big movie. They do not fuck around. They give this thing the whole 9 yards. They go the whole 9 yards with it. It is absolutely a terrific edition. This is going to be one of those films I'm going to return to probably more often than not. It's going to be one of those. This is going to be kind of a comfort film for me, probably like the Bond movies or something, or the Indiana Jones movies. Although obviously much darker in tone. I love John Boorman. I think he's an amazing filmmaker, and he's having kind of a moment right now. Because not only did Arrow put out Excalibur, but Criterion is putting out, near the end of April, a new 4K edition of Point Blank, his seminal crime film with Lee Marvin, which if you have not seen it, holy shit, you have to see it. It is probably one of Lee Marvin's best movies. If you're a Lee Marvin fan, you're going to be in hog heaven over this one, because he is absolutely amazing in it, and it's a tremendous movie. And I have to, one of the extras they have on that 4K edition is they've ported over from the original Blu-ray, from the original standard edition DVD, the commentary track with John Boorman and Steven Soderbergh. I have heard that track because I have the original DVD, because that's the kind of sicko I am. I'm still holding on to it, even though I'm still going to get that 4K. Okay, it is a lovely commentary track. Soderbergh is an incredible interviewer of other filmmakers. If remember last week when we were doing The Godfather, and we talked about the interview he did with Coppola at the Tribeca Film Festival, it's that same thing. It's just a beautiful commentary track. And Soderbergh has kind of made a second career of talking to other filmmakers about their films. He actually did 3 commentary tracks with Mike Nichols for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, The Graduate, and Catch-22. And I still need to get, which Catch-22 just came out on 4K. I need to get that, because it also has a commentary track by our good online friend, Mr. Drew McWeeny, and I'm very curious to hear that. And I'm just curious to see the film in 4K, which is beautifully shot by David Watkin. As you can tell, I have a thing about cinematography. I should point out very quickly, this film was shot by Alex Thompson, who is one of the great British cinematographers. He also, let me hang on a second. Let me double check and make sure I can double check to see which films Thompson's worked on each. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Continuing with Peter. Yeah, he's worked on. Whoa, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong Alex Thompson. Anyway, the point is, he is a legendary cinematographer who's worked with a bunch of people. Most of you might know that he was the guy who took over for... Here we go. That's it, I got the spelling wrong. So he's direct... Oh, he did some additional photography for Richard Donner for Superman. He did Dr. Phoebes Rise Again for Robert Fuse. Excuse me. Yeah, he's done Eureka for Nicholas Roeg. Oh, he shot The Keep for Michael Mann. This Year of the Dragon for Michael Cimino, which is a terrible movie. I'm sorry, I do not like it. I do not like Year of the Dragon. It is beautifully shot, but I hate that movie with a loathing unto my soul. Don't get me started on it. But yeah, I also did the photography for Jim Henson for Labyrinth. So yeah, you guys are down. If you've seen those movies, you're down with Alex Thompson. Absolutely amazing cinematographer. He also did Alien, as I said before. He did Alien 3 for Fincher, pinch hitting for Jordan Cromwell, who sadly started developing symptoms of Parkinson's disease during the shoot and which is a shame. But again, great cinematographer, and again, the transfer that Arrow has done on this thing, which is absolutely gorgeous and does justice to the man's work. This is a full-fledged recommend. You need to get this movie. You need to get it into your eyeballs. You need to get it on your shelf. You need to get experience with Excalibur. It is probably one of the finest fantasy films of the 80s, and if you're looking to get into John Boorman's work as a filmmaker, this is as good an entry point as ever. Probably don't want to start with Exorcist 2: The Discovery. You're gonna have to want to watch it at some point, but you're not gonna want to start there. You get to it down the line, but you want to start with this, because this is Boorman straight from the tap. It is glorious, wonderful filmmaking. You should absolutely check him out. And I think that's it. I think we're done. Thank you, folks, for joining me today. We will be doing a High on Life 2 stream later today at 9 o'clock. Hope you can join me for that. And I will see you folks later. Have a terrific evening, and I'll see you soon.